This is a little bit controversial because so many people love this game, but Dark Souls 2 is often considered the black sheep of the Soul series. Well, they have a point. Let's explore why so many people view this game negatively. First, the game is nearly unplayable with a keyboard and mouse due to frustrating input lag. Every time you launch the game, you need to disable and re-enable the double-click option in the settings to avoid unbearable input delays. Without this adjustment, the game is unplayable. The user interface is another pain point. Navigating through the menus feels clunky, and finding specific locations when fast traveling is a hassle. If you're playing with a keyboard and mouse, it's even worse, as the game doesn't display the key bindings properly. You're left fumbling through keys trying to figure out which one does what. This issue isn't exclusive to Dark Souls 2 though. It's a common problem across all Souls games. Playing them with a keyboard and mouse is a struggle, to say the least. One of the most frustrating aspects of the Dark Souls 2 is adaptability stat. This stat affects your character's movements, like dodge timing and how quickly you can use items. The issue here is that if you don't invest points into adaptability, the dodge mechanics feels broken. Enemy attacks will hit you even when you've clearly dodged. On the flip side, if you pour too many points into this stat, dodging becomes almost too easy, breaking the game's challenge. This system feels unbalanced and detracts from the gameplay. The boss designs in Dark Souls 2 also fall short compared to the other games in the series. Many bosses feel repetitive with overly simple attack patterns. However, the game features many great bosses as well, so I can't say they are all poorly designed. Level design is another area where the game stumbles. Many areas feature narrow corridors, making combat in tight spaces frustrating. Especially if you aren't using a thrusting weapon, striking walls instead of enemies is a constant annoyance. And the camera doesn't work well in these confined spaces, particularly in swamp areas or caves. Unlike Dark Souls 1, where each region is seamlessly interconnected, it's difficult to mentally map out the game world in Dark Souls 2. In Dark Souls 1, you always knew where you were and how the areas connected. Additionally, ambushes are everywhere, making exploration feel more like a chore than an adventure. Another downside is that you have to return to Majula every time you want to level up, rather than being able to do it at bonfires like in the first game. Another divisive feature is the weapon drawability system. In theory, you can repair weapons at the blacksmith in Majula, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but when your weapon breaks in the middle of a fight, things get complicated. You either have to open your inventory and switch weapons if you have a backup, or leave the area to repair it. Both options are annoying because the game doesn't pause while you're in the inventory, making it nearly impossible to swap weapons during combat. To be fair, this no pause mechanic is present in all Souls games. It's not specific to Dark Souls 2, but I believe single-player games should allow you to pause no matter what. All of this sounds like enough to ruin any game, yet despite its flaws, Dark Souls 2 is far from a bad game. It offers a deep, challenging experience true to the Souls formula, with punishing combat and a world rich in lore and mystery. The Scholar of the First Edition brought significant improvements, making it the best way to experience the game. One of the game's biggest strengths is its build variety. The dual-wielding system is a standout feature, allowing you to wield the same type of weapon in both hands and swing them simultaneously. This drastically changes how you approach combat and encourages you to experiment with different weapon combinations. Dark Souls 2 also introduces some unique ideas in its boss fights and environments. Some bosses can be weakened before entering their arenas, adding an extra layer of strategy. The game also features interesting new items like forest lockstones and branches of yore. Lockstones unlock hidden areas, while branches of yore are used to restore petrified NPCs or access new paths. The limited number of branches forces you to carefully consider where and when to use them, which adds to sense of immersion and agency in shaping the game world. The game also boasts a wide variety of weapons, stunning environments, and beautiful soundtracks that enhance the overall experience. I understand why some people don't like Dark Souls 2, but I think it's a bit unfair. The main reason this game is seen in a negative light is because it followed Dark Souls 1, which was a masterpiece. Even though Dark Souls 2 introduced some new ideas and took risks, it didn't have the same groundbreaking impact as the first game. This led to disappointment for some people who expected to surpass the original. Actually, this phenomenon applies to many sequels. People tend to compare them to their predecessors and feel let down when the sequel doesn't quite capture the same magic. A good example would be the God of War games. God of War 2018 is a fantastic game with its beautiful story and perfect gameplay, but God of War Ragnarok is not. That's because Ragnarok feels like the same game with a worse story and a weaker combat system. If God of War Ragnarok were the only God of War game, it would probably feel like a much better game. But since it didn't exceed the expectations set by the first game, it disappointed a lot of people, including me. This is exactly what's happening with Dark Souls 2. Well, you might ask, then why did people like Dark Souls 3? Well, one reason is that Dark Souls 3 is objectively a better game, but another reason is that people remember the second game as being worse than it actually was. So Dark Souls 3 didn't have to work as hard to exceed expectations. In contrast, for Dark Souls 2 to be seen as great, it had to be better than Dark Souls 1, which was nearly an impossible task because the first game was a masterpiece. In the end, all of these games are great in their own right. Dark Souls 2 is a fantastic game. I agree it's the weakest of the trilogy, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad game. I love Souls games, and Dark Souls 2 is just another step in that beautiful journey. This video is a clip from the very first video I uploaded to this channel. I decided to upload it separately because I felt it deserved to be its own video. Feel free to check out the original video as well. Thank you.